Hey guys, so I've been sort of rewatching a lot of season one of Gravity Falls, and I was just recently watching the episode Boys Crazy, because it's actually an episode I've been thinking about doing a review of at some point, mainly because the way Mabel acts in some parts of the episode kind of bugs me. But the thing I'd actually forgotten before I went to rewatching it is there's also a subplot involving Dipper, which is basically him trying to catch Robbie deceiving Wendy because he made this mixtape for her which has sort of this mind control thing on it, and he's basically trying to catch Robbie in the act. And at the end, he succeeds, and Wendy breaks up with Robbie, which was obviously what Dipper was hoping would happen. And what's kind of interesting is right at the end, Dipper just sort of basically goes over to Wendy after he thinks that he's succeeded, and he's saying, hey, you want to hang out with me now? And Wendy's just like, well, you're just going to forget about this, like, instantly like that, and try and get with me now or something. I'm still upset about, what's just happened and everything. So it's kind of interesting, sort of, it's hitting home to the fact that, while Dipper has done a good thing here and, calling Robbie out on what he's been doing, because it's not right what Robbie's been doing and everything, he's done it for the wrong reasons. He's only done it because he wants Wendy to break up with Robbie so that Wendy is then available for Dipper to go out with her, or him to go out with Wendy instead. So it sort of had me thinking, what if Robbie had been a nice guy? What if Robbie had actually been the nicest guy in the world? Would Dipper have still wanted Wendy to break up with him? Because it really, in a sense, doesn't really matter what kind of a guy Robbie is. He could be someone who Dipper actually has a lot in common with. He could be, like really good friends with him. If he's Wendy's boyfriend, then that still means that Wendy's not available to go out with anybody else. So he's still a problem as far as Dipper's concerned in that sense. So I wonder if it actually could have been more interesting, really, if they'd made Robbie into a nice guy and maybe even someone that Dipper actually got along with okay. Would perhaps this have made it more difficult, for with Dipper having a crush on Wendy, wanting her to break up with him, or could this perhaps potentially have made it a little bit easier? Because, obviously, even though he still can't go out with Wendy, he's still gaining friends out of this situation, maybe, because as well as being friends with Wendy, he could perhaps also be friends with Robbie. So, this could be, that could make for an interesting kind of setup. I suppose the problem that this puts the writers in is that you can't really have Dipper get Wendy to break up with Robbie without either making Robbie look like not a nice guy suddenly, so he'd be out of character basically, or you're just making Dipper look like a complete dick because he's trying to maybe manipulate the situation or lie or in some way to get Robbie to sort of look like someone that he isn't. Let's say if you make Robbie a jerk, it's a lot easier then for Dipper to get Wendy to break up with Robbie, but also sort of hit home to the fact that he's not maybe done it for the right reasons. Which is still a good message, I think, but it could have made for some more interesting and more unique, I think, kind of writing opportunities maybe if you make Robbie into a decent guy. And I can only really think of one instance in fiction off the top of my head where they've done something like this, and that's the Futurama feature-length episode Bender's Big Score, where basically Leela meets this guy named Lars, and Fry is very jealous of him. Basically, not because of anything Lars has actually done or anything. It's just simply because of the fact that Leela is going out with him, and he's been in love with Leela for quite a long time, and he's sort of envious of Lars. He's like, I've loved Leela for all this time. Why can Lars just sort of step in? And Lars hasn't done anything wrong. He's done nothing to Fry. There's no real reason for Fry to have anything against Lars. He's just sort of jealous of him, really. And ultimately, they don't really sort of do anything particularly interesting with this, sort of idea of, there's no point, where maybe Fry kind of befriends Lars and finds out he's a decent guy or anything, or maybe Lars sort of finds out that, he's making Fry jealous or anything. Ultimately, actually, there's quite an unexpected and quite big kind of twist at the end that I won't reveal for anybody who hasn't seen it. But that is just the only time I can ever remember where the main character's love interest has been going out with somebody who is actually a decent guy. It's the cliched thing to do is to have them going out with a jerk. Therefore, it's much easier for us, the audience, to also hate this person that they are going out with, not just because they have stolen the love interest away from the main character, but also because they're kind of a jerk. So, yeah, Gravity Falls is so good, maybe. Actually, no, when I think about it, Gravity Falls isn't. I was going to say it's kind of good at straying away from the cliches and the stereotypes and everything, but actually, no. What Gravity Falls tends to do is it tends to take those stereotypes and those cliches, but is sort of aware of what the cliche thing is and what the stereotype is and what the predictable thing to happen is, but it just sort of parallelizes it or takes it in a slightly different direction. It's sort of, I think that's what I said in the video I made like a year ago. It's the standard kind of kids show plot, but it's all done in kind of new, different kinds of ways. So I suppose that is kind of what they're doing here, maybe with Wendy being upset, even though she breaks up with Robbie again. Robbie was a jerk, and Dipper was right to get, Wendy to break up with him because he wasn't a good boyfriend for her. But at the same time, he's done it for the wrong reasons. And that is a good message, but I just still kind of wonder if it would have been kind of more interesting to have Robbie be a decent guy, maybe. And have maybe Wendy actually be perfectly happy with him. And you could maybe, I don't know, maybe have Robbie have to move away, perhaps? And then, therefore, you maybe see how Dipper reacts to that. Is he happy because Wendy, was lost her boyfriend, basically? Or should he be sad for Wendy for having lost her boyfriend? Whatever. It's kind of that sort of catch-22. You care about this person that you have a crush on, but at the same time you kind of wish this thing on them that they themselves would not wish at all, and that's them to lose their boyfriend in some way, or them to be forced to break up with their boyfriend or something like that. It's not something I'm happy to say that I've ever been faced with, that kind of dilemma. I've never really had any kind of major crush on anyone. But it is kind of a difficult situation I think a lot of people have been in, when someone they have a crush on has been going out with somebody else, and, you feel bad for wanting them to break up with them, really, because that's not a particularly nice thing to think, but at the same time, you're not going to have an opportunity with them unless they're single. So it makes complete sense. So yeah, it would have been kind of interesting to see what they could have done had Robbie been a decent guy. But with that said, I do like the direction they take it in Boys Crazy, with, Dipper sort of getting a bit of comeuppance and sort of it hitting home to him that, he's done a good thing, but it wasn't for the right reason. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that, guys. So we'll see you soon for another episode review.